and speak. And um, these tools and lead to the development and cultivation of vocabulary, of beautiful speech, of beautiful writing, and the ability to read more and more complex texts, even though we're starting at a really basic level and slowly working through the grammar stage. So if we think about that grammar again, that is really the focus of a K through 8 school, reading, writing, and speaking well, and then the arts of number, cultivating those basic skills in mathematics. And as part of that grammar and learning language, the Christian classical and especially the Roman Catholic tradition has put an emphasis on Latin. And it's fascinating as a Latin instructor. I teach our basic beginning Latin classes, how Latin helps us to better understand English, just the way it works, because as native English speakers, many of us don't think about the grammar of English. But once we look at Latin, Latin is beautifully ordered and it helps us to increase our understanding of English. It's a source of a huge amount of English vocabulary. It also helps to promote careful attention and thinking skills. Latin is a very precise language, and if you pay very close attention, you can decode it because it's an inflected language. So each of the parts of speech are marked out very clearly in the words themselves. So it makes this a really good way to develop disciplined thinking. And if you ask my wife, who is a much better Latin teacher than I am, she's a more advanced Latin learner. She has found that learning Latin has helped her learn other languages. She's right now we have multiple Russian friends, and she's learning Russian. And she says that her understanding of Latin has made that much easier. And so that's a very brief and a quick look at the liberal arts, which forms really the basis of the classical curriculum. Now I want to move on to a related but different topic. So we've been talking about a lot of the things that happen in school. Now I'd like to talk for a little while about the things that can happen in the home to promote what is happening in the school. And I think one of the most important things is cultivating imaginations in children. And S.D. Smith, who is the author of a recent and beautiful and loved uh, set of children's stories, has summarized much of what's being said about this idea of cultivating the imagination in children. And so I'm just going to go over these few points with you because I think they're all very important as well. And the first thing, especially now, as screens continue to proliferate, that one of the key things of cultivating imagination in children is to limit screen time and addiction to technology. And this is where you're going to get a wide range of experts on education and child rearing who are going to agree how important this is. The other thing to note is that most of the top technology executives, if you look where they're putting their children in schools, they are putting them in schools that have no technology or absolute minimum technology. And so that tells you a lot. So a key component is limiting screen time. The second thing is your family's church attendance and prayer, scripture, and being a participant in the liturgical life of the church. The third thing that he mentions are providing tools for children for imaginative engagement. This could be musical instruments, books, which we'll talk about in more detail in a minute, paint, tools, building materials, stories, uh, playing Legos, Now, the plain Legos is one that I find interesting because more and more toys get very specialized and especially marketed after products. But when you can have Legos that are just plain blocks, it allows the child to use his imagination to build his or her own things. And so, one of if you've limited screen time and you provide many tools for imaginative engagement, it's very good for the students and the children to be able to explore on their own. And children are like this. You can give them very specialized toys, and they get tired of it very quickly. But at least in my house, when I would give my young children a box and cut a door or a window in it, they would play with that until the box was absolutely worn out. Where sometimes gifts that they were given that were more specific toys kind of fell by the wayside in a very short time. And then the fourth item there is to protect time for unscripted play and outdoors if possible. I think it's very important for children to play outside and to have time to explore and not have everything prescribed to them, but allow them to make up their own things to play. Fifth, stories, stories, stories. Surrounding a child with great stories of heroes um, is one of the best things you can do to cultivate their imagination. And then last, which probably comes more natural for traditional Christians than a lot of other folks, is to establish traditions and holidays and to keep the Christian year and do those traditional things that cement our faith. All right, so those are some broad things that you can do to cultivate or help cultivate your child's imaginations. I think these are really important, both for education and just for their own development. But if we're going to talk specifically about education, I want to share with you what I think is the golden key to primary or K through 8 education, and that is reading. Every year, I am more and more convinced on how important it is in all aspects of a child's life to have a cultivation of a love of reading. I teach high school as well, high school literature. And each year before my new class starts, I survey my students and I ask them what's their relationship to books. Do they read books on their own, books that they choose and that they like? And if they are readers who read outside of school, just because they want to, there's almost a perfect correlation between the students who are good students in school and the students who enjoy and read on their own. I've been quite shocked. It's almost an exact predictor. So reading is really the golden key to educational success. And there have been multiple, you may have even seen some of the articles that have come out on recent studies that tracked how many books that were in a household and then compared that with the educational outcomes of the children who lived in those households. And the correlation was pretty amazing that children who are raised in homes with books have a better chance of academic success. Now, and my experience bears that out as well. Now, there are really three components to reading, and I think students need all three of these. They need to be read to. Read alouds are extremely important. And if you don't have time, or in addition to the time that you might be reading aloud to a child, you can also get books on tape that have been well and beautifully made. My children listen to the Narnia books over and over on tape. You can get many books on tape. And if you have a library card, you can get those free, even online for students to listen to. So I recommend that all parents have maybe a 15-minute read aloud time before bed. But if students want to listen to more books on tape, that's a great thing to do as well. And then students need to spend time reading out loud to someone else. And this is something that they probably do sometime at school, but it probably isn't enough And so students reading aloud to a parent or a grandparent or a sibling is a wonderful way to build their reading skills. And then finally, some independent reading as well. So read alouds, having a read aloud time as a family is such a beautiful and great thing to do. Reading aloud will bear amazing results, and it happens to be quite enjoyable, fun, and very easy to do. All you've got to do is find a great classic children's book and read it 10 or 15 minutes a night, and everyone should enjoy it. The adults just as much as the children. And this is the probably the best way to build vocabulary. Direct instruction of vocabulary can work, but naturally learning it as you're reading is the best way. Listening to good text and well-written text will build language acquisition in the student. It will transfer over to their speaking and writing. And kind of a huge side benefit is it also builds family bonds. And we have books and things that are in common between members of the family. And so if there's one thing that I could get you to focus on at home for academic success, it's reading. And reading aloud is an important part of that. And then finally, I think as students get older, if we start with young students, we want to cultivate our relationship with our children, have lots of good and meaningful conversations. And I know sometimes when you pick up the kids at the end of a long day of school and they get in the car and you say, "How was your day?" or "How did it go?" Sometimes that question is not well received. Now, some students want to talk about that, but sometimes they don't. And so there are some strategies that you can use to help build some better engagement with your children and build relationships. And you can experiment with this, but I think it's wonderful to have some questions to try out on the ride home from school. And I've got just a few kind of random samples, and I'm sure that you could come up with some more. But I think just having a habit of discussion and to try to come up with a question that engages the child is really important. So I've just got a list here, so I'll go through them briefly. Um, what was the most fun thing you did today at school? Did you learn about any interesting people today? And that gives the child a chance to actually tell you something specific, so much better than a general question. Did you read or hear any interesting stories today? What was the best thing that happened? What was the hardest thing you had to do today? Who did you play with at recess and lunch? Does anyone at school need prayer? Did anything confuse you in school today? What was the funniest thing that happened? And did you learn any new words today? And you can say you don't want to pepper the child with questions, but pick one and maybe it doesn't hit. Try a different one another day. And I think these are just some very simple ways to cultivate engagement and relationship with students as it relates to school. So just a brief recap and an encouragement for you to stay the course with classical education. If there's one kind of education that has been proven to be sound, successful through several millennia, it's classical and Christian education. A focus on the liberal arts, which focuses on the arts of language and number. And then think about ways that you can incorporate just a little more reading. And it is important. It is important what students read. I think sometimes people will get advice and it doesn't, they'll say, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter what they read as long as they're reading." No, it really does matter what they're reading. When I was a child of 7 or 8, my mom was really worried about me because I only read baseball cards and books about baseball. And so she asked the reading specialist, should she be worried? And she said, "No, don't be worried, as long as he's reading something." Well, that's not really accurate. If I would have read and had great stories read to me, uh, I would have even been more well off. I didn't really start um, developing a reading habit until after college, and that's when I discovered all the great stories. And thankfully, since I've had four children of my own, I've gotten to go back and discover many of those great children's classics with my children and see some of what I missed. But those things are great at developing a child's imagination, their language skills, and just their love of great stories. All right. I hope that was helpful. I'm going to unshare and see if anyone would like to ask a question if we have time.
We do have time. Thank you, Robert. Does anybody have any questions? I know Ms. Byers was monitoring the chat for questions, and I haven't seen any come through. Does anybody here have any questions? No? Okay.
Very
Oh, wait, there is one.
I came in 5 minutes late. How does so the math is important in the classical education. How does science and technology fit into that as well?
Okay, did you hear that, Robert? How does science and
Yes.
technology fit in?
Yes, I did. So yes, typically science comes under the quadrivium and as an outgrowth of the liberal art of the quadrivium. And science, especially in a K through 8 school, starts with nature study and understanding and looking and wondering at the world around you. And then once students can develop an aptitude in math, they're ready to start the more um, disciplinary and modern sciences when they get in the older grades, especially in high school.
I can tell you that here at St. Edward, we focus on using technology as the tool that it is in support of our learning. So the generation, our children, have been born in a technology environment. They have been immersed in it. It's not like, I mean, I got my first computer when I graduated from high school and went off to college, and I think it was a 350 megabyte hard drive. So our kids don't need the same type of technology education that we needed. We needed to be in a Microsoft Office class where we learned how to use Word and Excel and PowerPoint. Our children need to learn how to use those things within the integration of the class they're taking. So how do they learn to format a well-written paper in an English class? That's how they should be learning to use Word, not as a standalone, let's format in Word some essay or something. You know, they need to be doing it for something they're going to turn in.
It makes sense.
Yeah, and I have had the same experience too. In school, we will use technology where needed, and if I have a problem with the technology, I can always ask one of my students and they can help me.
Yes, Jillian, Miss Connolly has what would you recommend? What type of reading is preferred? Fiction, nonfiction, or specific topics?
Yes. And everything. So I think a foundation needs to be great fictional stories, but every kind of book should be available if the students want to. You know, if your student loves science or they love technology or engineering, then find those books too. But I think cultivating the imagination is going to be done primarily through fiction. So that's kind of the basis. But providing them with anything else that they would like to explore on their own is fantastic.
Other questions? Robert, you're welcome to stay on. The next portion, I'm going to be going over our state of the school. So you're welcome to stay on and join us, but I appreciate all your help this year for me as a leader at the school, but also taking the time this evening to share with our parents a deeper look at classical education. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. And I hope everybody has a wonderful summer.
Thank you. You too. You too. All right.
Y Daniel fue por ella.
And then just a reminder, if I could ask participants, actually.
Yo no vengo de la casa. Fui a la escuela y fuimos a piano. Les compré el mismo.
Okay. Before you begin, Ms. Brand has a comment to parents about Latin. Okay. But she has to unmute. Oh, Miss Brand, you can unmute. Which one?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I just wanted to kind of follow up with what Mr. Terry said about Latin being a precise language. And this is really just my opinion. But, you know, there's so much anxiety that's going on with kids and with everyone in general. And for me, teaching Latin, it's really, it is very, as he said, it's a very precise language. And I sometimes say to the students that it almost is like math. There is a definite answer. And so, anyway, I just wanted to, I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself before he got offline. I'm sorry about that, but I just wanted to thank him for that comment because I agree with that completely.
Thank you, Ms. Brand. She is our Latin teacher. And the slides are not advancing.
I'll just say this quickly while you're advancing your slides, Erin. What I meant, I just want to say there's something really calming in studying the language of the church, a language that is so precise. So that's why I mentioned that. And I don't know, I think it's interesting how it can be a very calming thing to study. So that's all I had to say.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Brand. Okay, let me try this again. So do you know why it was not advanced? Why not? Right, yeah, I was saying that's why. Well, you check, you did it from the web application, right? No, this is on my, This way then, I apologize. You can hide the ones on the left also. All right. So, they have to. And then at the top, you can hide the menu, which will, no, yeah, and there, you'll be able to hide the menu, but. There you go. Okay. All right. So this year, we ended the year with an enrollment of 205 students. We have an average class size of 13 students. And we are continuing to work toward our classical education accreditation. We have Latin in grades 1 through 8 currently, and our Catholic identity, we are building with our Eucharistic procession, our masses for important feast days, and Memorial Days throughout the year. So those were the masses that we added this year in addition to our Fridays. We find it's one thing that Robert mentioned about the how to cultivate the imagination of the child. One of it is the Christian practice, and we are practicing that with our liturgical living, not just attending mass, but we're also, the students are experiencing blessing of the throats for St. Blaise. They're experiencing the chalking of the doors at Epiphany. These traditions that we have as Catholics that really help them live their Catholic faith, not just know it in their head, but know it in their heart as well. We are also very happy with our NWEA results this year. Our students continue to rank over, I think our lowest rank in the subject area was 67th percentile. So we're above the national and archdiocesan averages. So we're doing well there. Also, our fundraising support has been fantastic this year, and we have seen a close to our house system this year. Congratulations to Oxfordshire for taking the house this year, coming from behind. So excellent work. So as I mentioned, we're focusing, one of the things we focus on our mission is our Catholic identity. It is our mission to educate students to know, love, and serve God in partnership with parents. This year we celebrated a Jubilee year. It's 2025. So every 25 years we have a Jubilee year. In the Universal Church celebrates a Jubilee. We also had our Eucharistic procession in the fall with a multi-parish Eucharistic procession, which began with us. Last year we ended at St. Edward. This year we began at St. Edward. So we kicked that off for St. Ignatius, Christ the Good Shepherd, and Prince of Peace. So it was a collaboration between the 4 parishes. We also are looking to bring in grade level retreats. We expanded our 8th grade retreat this year, and we extended it beyond the school day. We would like to, in the fall, work with Rocky Villafranca, who is our youth minister on the parish side, on building those retreat or reflection times for all the students. It's good at the beginning of the year to take that time to reflect. We did offer a Lenten Ash Wednesday day of time of reflection, where students, Miss Nguyen and Mr. Villafranca worked together to bring each grade level in for about 30 minutes to spend some time reflecting on what is Lent and what should they be focusing on during Lent. So that was a good experience for the students. We also offer confessions for students and parents. Of course, we do the twice a year during Advent, during Lent, but we will take classes when requested. I know I mentioned to one of the things I did this spring was teach a section of 5th grade math. And I mentioned last week to my math students that I was going to confession, and they all said, well, we want to go to confession too. So I'm taking my math students to confession tomorrow with Father Christian. So I think that's good that the students are starting to live they're starting to take ownership. We also, it was a very exciting day here. I guess about a week and a half ago when we elected the new Pope, and we were this side of the hall. We had Miss Caldwell and Miss Gerzak live streaming the smokestack from the Vatican. And when the white smoke came out, they all started cheering smoke, smoke, smoke. Well, the other side of the hall thought there was a fire. So, and then we realized, and then everybody was riveted for the next hour and a half waiting for the Pope to come out. So that was an exciting, and it was really kind of hard to go back to the routine after that because everybody was so like, wow, that doesn't happen very often. The kids got to see that. So that was good. Historical moment, being the first American born Pope. As I mentioned, our NWEA testing we still continue to do well on NWEA testing. We use that information to help guide individually for students, how they're doing. And we also use it to guide administratively, where should we look at adopting new textbooks or new resources in an area. So one of the things we've been focusing on for the past few years has been strengthening our computation skills in math. It's one of the reasons that we adopted the Saxon, because Saxon has such a strong focus on the math facts memorization. And we've seen our math scores increase. So now we're looking at reading and we're thinking, okay, reading's kind of on a plateau. What can we do to build skills with reading comprehension and grammar? So I'll be working with the ELA, our teachers, to see if we need to adopt a new textbook or a new resource that it is a space where we lack some vertical alignment. Each teacher kind of does, we have the Memoria Press traditional spelling for grades 1 through 5. But beyond that, we don't really instruct on spelling 6th, 7th, 8th grade. It's something the teachers have said, let's look into. So we'll be exploring that option based on how we've seen the students performing on NWEA. Also, we've been partnering with Beautiful Teaching this year, which Robert is from Beautiful Teaching. They've done some professional development with our teachers on, we've talked about recitation, the importance of recitation, how to perform recitation, how to narrate, how to grade narrations. And we saw Mrs. Caldwell with 5th grade history. She did as an assessment, so a major test grade. The kids had to narrate what they knew about the Civil War, and she was amazed at the things that the students could put down that they remembered from their classes. So that's what we really want to see, is that internalization of the information. It's one thing if they cram for a test and they can remember on the test the dates and the places of the things, but if they can put it all together and connect with it, then that's something that's going to stay with them beyond their years here at St. Edward. We are also looking at expanding our electives. So I don't like to call what we did this year electives because the students had no choice. So it was really more of enrichment. It was a way that we were able to bring in some unstructured playtime for our junior high students, which is important. But we're looking at really expanding our elective program to bring those students the chance to experience things they might not otherwise experience. So one of the benefits of the size that we are is that it allows us to look at our schedule and see where we can fit in for teachers. That was where we didn't have teachers to teach electives this year. So we're looking at the teachers that we have. We're creating a schedule that will allow them the planning time to have an elective. And for those teachers that have that time, we asked them, what would you like to teach? And they came back with, let's see, we are offering human geography. Mrs. Caldwell is going to be teaching a human geography class, Lego robotics, theater, yearbook, athletic conditioning, and monarch helper, as well as knitting. That is another thing that one of the teachers wanted to offer. So I know that we did get some feedback that parents were concerned that we were going to be getting rid of technology to do the electives. That was not an intended communication, but that's what we would be doing. The electives were a separate conversation from the technology. So we have a focused technology class for 5th and 6th. We're looking at how can we support the technology use in the elementary building. And then by 7th and 8th grade, we want to help the teachers develop projects that incorporate the technology. So in math, how can we help the math teacher incorporate Excel in science? How can we do Excel in science so that the students are using it in an environment where it's meaningful for them? And then we are also maintaining our smaller class sizes. We're limiting our elementary classes to no more than 18 students. We can go a little bit higher here in the junior high building because our rooms are bigger. So we can go up to 22 or 23 in the junior high building. That would not affect math because we fully level for math. So the math classes would still be in junior high about 15, no more than 15. And we have also seen some staffing changes. So we welcomed Renee Nunez and Anita Steiner in the parish business office. Renee Nunez took over as parish business manager, and Anita Steiner is the new bookkeeper who is supporting the school in accounting for the school. We are also saying goodbye to Sister Marie Martha, Miss Nguyen, Mr. Oswald, and Miss Cantu, and Mrs. Arnona. Of course, we would love to keep all of our teachers forever. But they are all being called in different places. Sister Marie Martha is being reassigned by the order. Miss Nguyen is actually entering the convent. So she will be following her vocation as a sister. And Mr. Oswald has been pilfered from us by Versati.
You should start training teachers. So if you want that guy, you need to be sitting.
Well, I tried this strike. I did try and strike that up with sister, with the Dominican sister, say, hey, I'm giving you one, you gotta give me back. But maybe I should talk to Sister John Paul about that. Hey, who are you sending to us to replace Mr. Oswald? And then, Mrs. Cantu is, and Mrs. Arnona are both retiring. Mrs. Arnona is moving to Buffalo, Texas, yes, but it's a little bit far for her to come in. But we are excited to have Mrs. Singletary, who's agreed to take on, Mrs. Oswald's PE, because Mrs. Oswald is gonna be moving into second grade. And Mrs. Gatto is going to be taking Miss Arnona's place as instructional interventionist, focusing on our students that need extra support, but especially with our dyslexic population. She has the training, the same training that Miss Arnona has, the reading by design. She has the expertise to come in and support our dyslexic population. And we have begun our search process for the remaining open positions, and we will be sending out updates as we make those hiring decisions. And technology. So we've talked a bit about that this evening already. The Paddles Up from our casino night did very, very well. One area is our computer lab. Most of the computers in the computer lab and many of the teacher computers will not support Windows 11. So with Windows 10 becoming unsupported in October, it's important that we fill that security gap. So we're looking to upgrade. We're going to use those funds with Paddles Up to upgrade the computers in the computer lab, as well as you may hear your kids say that the laptops never work. It's actually not the laptops that are the problem. It is our Wi-Fi signal. Our network is on the south side of this building. The WAPs have gone out, and so they are not putting out a strong signal. So 1, 2, 3 kids get on, and then everybody else can't because the signal's down. We're looking also at how can we do that. How can we strengthen that signal so that our laptop, we have a laptop card in every room, access to that technology. We just needed to work.
Como Casanova 90 terreno. Siempre está con un radiecito así, una vaina, escuchando a alguien. Si no es un huevo, si no es el otro noticiero.
Am I the only one that can mute?
Yes. The audio up there by the microphone, can you mute all? Or has your audio since you're the left, above your head? Above your head.
Okay,
There you go.
there we go. Go back to our phones. Also, we are continuing our partnership with Smart Families. So while technology is a part of the world we live in, we do want to make sure that our students are using it as the resource it is and not overusing it. So teachers are using it with intention. They're not just throwing kids on computers and say, go play games for 45 minutes. They're really trying to use intentionally the technology that we have. But we ask for the parental support at home of limiting how your students are using the technology at home. That is one space where we find a lot of things will start in a group chat at home that the school has no control over. And then it flows into school the next day or the next week. And there's, mean things said or, and we're trying to cultivate a culture of a Christian culture that is focused on loving our neighbors. And our children are great children. All of our students are great children. You guys are great parents. But they're children and they may say or do things that they shouldn't. And it's our job to help form them, to teach them that saying some things are inappropriate. How do we help them navigate those years where they're trying things out, and we need to be there to say that's not the appropriate way to talk to your friends, and really help guide them in that. And setting boundaries too is another important thing we need to help them learn. That is not something that comes naturally to a lot of people, but I do tell students, like, you have the right to tell people how to talk to you. And if you don't like what somebody says to you, you are the most important person to say to them, it's not okay to say that to me. And we, the adults here at school, we try and support the kids in that effort because we find that it is more lasting for those relationships. Also on our facilities, the Back the Track campaign has been going very, very well. They have raised enough funds to start the landscaping process, treating you may have heard from Field Day about the stickers on the field. There are many, many stickers on the field. Also, we have ants and mole crickets. Mrs. Oswald is in a constant battle with mole crickets. But we do have a landscaping company that is going to start treating for the pests, but also maintaining the grass, fertilizing the grass. And we will be looking at how do we tie in the sprinkler system to the utility district. Right now, that sprinkler system runs off of a well, and we can water, I think, twice for the summer off the well because we are limited by the county on how much well water we can use annually, and it's not very much. So we would really like to move it on to the municipal utility district so that we can water as we should, so that the grass in the field look great. We have also, Father Christian and Mr. Mamaradlo, who is our facilities manager, have started a parish school building committee. And the purpose and goal of that committee is to start planning for the future. So they are looking first at what our needs are, and then they will identify ways to fulfill those needs for the entire community. All right, so our pillars, let's talk for a minute about our pillars. So Caritas, love. We have been working hard to build community this year. We had a lot of community building events that were very well attended. Our kickball game in November, the family dance in February, steps for students also in February. Our bingo bonanza was a huge hit. Our casino night gala raised over $49,000, so it was also a huge success. Grandparents' Day was a good event. Veterans Day, pastries with parents, those are all events where we came together as a community and we got to celebrate our community and fellowship with each other. We got to get to know each other, which I think is very beneficial for our community. And Ratio, we are seeing the results of our educational model. Just a couple of, you can see the pictures here. I know Ms. Guajardo in her history class, they study in third grade, they study medieval history. And one of the things the students had to do was build a castle. And they had to have the parts of the castle, and they had to have a working drawbridge. So there was a little bit of engineering that went into the building of these castles. But Ms. Prima, our kindergarten teacher, before spring break, she said, hey, kids, if you want, you can build a diorama over spring break about an animal and its habitat. And I think most of the kindergartners came back the day after spring break, and it was just like, if you want to do this, you can do it. There was no grade for it. It wasn't required. And so many of them came back with these great, I remember one project was a fish in a shoebox, and she'd cut out fish and they were hanging, like she had hung them from, and then she had decorated the back of it to be like the ocean. And it was this kindergarten. And I know also Miss Quintero, the project that she did, this last research project that she did, the number of students who spent hours researching because they got to pick the topic. I know my sixth grader, she did Greek mythology, and I couldn't get her off of the Greek mythology. She was she turned everything in early. It was awesome. So when the students are engaged in those kind of projects that are meaningful to the student, they're building the skill, they're gaining knowledge, but they're also building skills for presenting and letting people know what they know. So I think that is excellent to see our students doing that. Also, our alumni continue to perform very well in high school and beyond. So our Catholic high schools are reporting numerous honor roll and curriculum awards for all of our alumni. We've also had the valedictorian at St. Pius this year is a St. Edward alum. So, and I believe last year at Trasadi, the valedictorian was a St. Edward alum. So our kids leave here and they do very, very well. They don't, not just academically, but as leaders in the schools that they go to. And I think that's what we all want for our children, is to be confident and knowledgeable when they leave here so that they can be who God is calling them to be. All right, so ministerium service. We saw a lot of service this year. We participated in the Share Your Holidays food drive with the choir. We did the Boots for Troops campaign. We also sent our 6th graders to the Houston Food Bank and the SPCA for their field trip, so they got to do some service on site at those facilities. As we closed out Catholic Schools Week, all of our students made blessing bags for the homeless. And I've heard countless stories from parents about the opportunities they had to lift the spirits of somebody suffering with or facing homelessness. And it was a good way for our students to connect with that and to recognize that there are people in need around them, and they can do something to help them. And then also our 8th graders, the morning part of their 8th grade retreat was spent helping clean Magnificat House, which is an organization that not only do they help homeless, but they also help people struggling with mental health challenges. And so they didn't interact with the individuals at Magnificat House, they were cleaning the Magnificat House. And it was a good opportunity for those students to practice that service. And then they went to Our Lady of Lavang to have the reflection part of the retreat in the afternoon. And our sports and extracurricular activities continue to grow. We are a small school, so most of our students that participate in sports participate in multiple sports. We see the same kids playing soccer. We'll also play basketball. The one sport where there's not crossover is soccer and volleyball because they happen at the same time. But the kids, I think the most important thing about our sports and the goal of our sports program is, one, to teach them the foundational skills they need to be successful in that sport in high school. But also to have fun. Our kids have a lot of fun. We hear from other teams how much fun it is to play us, because we come in with a spirit of competition that is very healthy. We're not focused just on winning. We're focused on playing a good, fair game, and which I think is, and we support the other team as well in that. We try not to encourage trash talking, that kind of thing. I think we had, our girls basketball team did make it to the first round of the playoffs. Our cross country, I mean, Ms. Wilkinson, you're here, our runners.
Our boys got first place.
First
Out
place.
of one of the league, yes. Boy team, yes.
So our kids are doing great things. I always do celebrate them in morning announcements.
Can I also add something to what you were talking about in sports? For cross country, we have our cross country kids. I saw while they're running, and they see their fellow opponents, other team members running, and they're suffering or they're having a hard time. Our girls from our team cheer them on, like actually encourage them while they're running. And that is very, that is wonderful that our children can do that. They go out there, not only that they compete, they also encourage, and they not to run to win, but to run with other runners too, just to finish a run, just not to win, so that's wonderful.
Thank you. So fundraising, we did a wonderful job fundraising this year. We budgeted to fundraise $60,000 with the Monarch Fund, and we definitely achieved that goal. We raised about $72,000 from all of the different fundraising events for the Monarch Fund. To just remind you, the annual fund bridges the gap between what the tuition covers and the operating expenses of the school. It allows us to be proactive when a need arises. And they also, we will be using a good portion of these funds to upgrade the computer lab and the network connectivity. Our PTO raised over $4,000 from Spirit Night, which was great. And those funds allow PTO to offer fun activities and enhancements for the students and teachers. It supports birthday club, it supports the teacher luncheons, teacher appreciation. It also supports playground upgrades. So the PTO covers the mulch for the playground. And that's an important thing because we want the kids to be able to play safely on the playground. And our booster club raised nearly $14,000 for the Back the Track campaign. So they're well on their way. That was through pie sales and bingo bonanza. They were well on their way to what needs to be started to get our track and our field looking great and in great shape.
Mrs. Makel,
Yes.
I just want to make sure to note there will be more fundraising numbers coming in from other PTO
yes.
things, but that will all be compiled in the gratitude report this summer.
Yes.
We just don't have those final numbers yet. There is more.
Yes, there is. Thank you, Ms. Byers. Yes, we will be reporting out in the gratitude report, the final numbers. These are not everything. And just a note about our survey results. So we did the survey. The advisory council for the past, I think, 4 years has put out a survey to families in the fall. And in the past, we reported that out through one-page documents. This year, we had 48 responses to our survey. The specific concerns that were mentioned were about the loss of instructional time by attending extra masses, the lack of meaningful service opportunities. A lot of the service that we do at St. Edward tends to be a food drive or a clothing drive or bring in money for the baby bottle campaign, but it's challenging for us we've been trying to find, how do we find meaningful service that the students are doing more than just bringing in a canned good. We want them to put their hands in the dirt and do some service. And then also there was the people were concerned about the lack of elective offerings, and they needed more open and proactive communication from the administration. So those were all things that we took to heart. We are working on we are working on improving our communication from the administration. Rather than do the one-page documents that we've done in the past, what we did was we had the grade level coffee talk so that we could address specific grade level needs. Those coffee talks were a great opportunity for me to hear some concerns that I didn't realize parents had. And also it allowed me to explain some of the things from the survey, like about the academic law. There was no, we didn't go below the required number of minutes of instructional time, even on weeks where we had 2 or 3 masses. So we took into consideration that, and that the masses that we attend when it's not a Friday are not as long as the Friday mass. It's only 30 minutes for the non-Friday mass on just a regular day. We also were, we explained what had happened in junior high with the enrichment and the recess, but also we got to communicate that we're planning on having some recess time daily across all the grade levels next year. And we also, I recognize I am not very wordy all the time. And so I think I do need to be more communicative to the parents. And so I'm making it a goal to have monthly letters in the newsletter from me addressing immediate things. And then looking forward to 2025. So we're going to continue to foster our small community. We are committed to growing in our capital classical education. So we will continue to take steps toward that. We are looking to be fully accredited by 2028. So that's been in our strategic plan since 2023. Each year we're taking more and more steps through the adoption of different curriculum pieces, through professional development for the teachers. Now when we start educating the parents on what does this really look like? And we will be looking at going into self-study toward the end of this next academic school year. We do still need to identify what organization we would like to be accredited from. We are a member school with an organization called Institute for Catholic Liberal Education. And they have a lot of great resources for us on professional development, on leadership planning, on strategic planning, all of those things to help really build a strong academic program here at St. Edward. So as I mentioned, we'll be piloting a more robust elective program in junior high. We will also be intentionally integrating technology into core subjects. And we will be initiating a parent book study program. And I encourage parents, I'm going to start that in the fall, but over the summer, I'm going to assign some parent summer reading. There is a book called The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. And it's an excellent, oh yes, Ms. Malka has a copy of it.
Rasani read it last year.
Yes. This is the, and I don't know if I'm still on video because I'm sharing my screen, but this is the book. I read it and it was a little terrifying because I have I have 4 children, but 3 of mine are adults now, and so some of the things I was like, oh, that's where I screwed up. It was, but it is there talks about some things that I think I would like to bring here to St. Edward. One of the things that he mentions in the book is about the importance of unstructured playtime. And that's not something that we can necessarily do during the school day, but one of the things they recommend is play groups. So after school play groups where parents could just come and play. I think the kids could just play after school. Looking at facilitating some of those kind of things in the upcoming. So now we are living our best life through Jesus. But I want to say, does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Yes, Ms. Byers.
I'm going to go ahead and start with some of the questions we've received online.
Excellent.
One of the first one, what are the enrollment numbers for next year that we have so far?
We are budgeting for 200 for next year.
Then I have a question. In 3rd and 4th grade, do you anticipate those classes being split, or are you waiting on numbers to finalize?
Right now at this time, I'm anticipating 4th grade being split. I am waiting on numbers for 3rd grade to be split. I actually believe it's vital to split 3rd grade. So
hopefully we have the numbers.
Yes.
Then let's see, I have another question before I have 2 comments. There's a question about safety and securing the campus with the building that is occurring next door.
Yes, so we are aware that they are building an apartment complex next door. Father Christian and I have been already talking about that. Makes it a priority to put actual fencing between us and the property next door. I know the construction will have a fence of its own, but it may not be sufficient for whatever is going to be there once they are finished with construction. So yes, that's already, building committee has already discussed that.
Logan Cook would like you to know that he can help with technology and networking within the school if needed.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Cook.
And Jillian Connolly would like you to know that she can make some introductions to many nonprofits that are credible if you're looking for more active service opportunities.
Yes, and I believe Ms. Connolly mentioned that before, and I'm sorry I haven't gotten back with you about that. But yes, we would love those because we are looking to expand our service learning opportunities.
Ms. Connolly would also like to know if we have any idea of rising 6. Oh, everyone would like to know what your thoughts are on splitting the grades.
At this time, and the junior high right now is set because I'm the only grade level that we split in junior high is 8th grade. None of the other grade levels have the numbers to support a split. These rooms are larger so they can house more students. But it is also because of what we're doing with the English language arts that I don't want to change what Miss Quintero and Miss Rain are doing for those grade levels. And also the 5th and 6th grade not being split is what is allowing us to bring in the elective program and have our teachers teaching those electives this year.
And 2nd grade was the next question on splitting.
The 2nd grade, I do anticipate splitting 2nd grade.
Based on numbers.
Based on numbers of enrollment.
that is all the questions I have from the chat, if anyone in the room has questions.
What do we think the traffic's gonna look like with the
Oh.
school?
Well, they're putting in a light.
But not here though, right?
No, they won't.
Yeah.
They won't. They're putting, but even that light will be helpful to us because it's close enough to that exit for us in the morning.
Have an officer.
Yeah, and I have an organization that that I'll be talking to over the summer that would provide, more consistent help with the traffic in the mornings, and then also some presence on the campus for a bit, in addition to just being out there to help us get out of the parking lot. Like a security, but there's a law enforcement. He's former law enforcement, and he started his own company that works with either current law enforcement or retired law enforcement.
And I say like, yeah, they start, it's at the school across the street, they start this fall, right?
Yes. Yes, and I do not have, there was another question that just came on the chat. I do not know about their dismissal start times yet, but I will be finding that out. And, oh, school supplies. Okay, we will continue to provide the basic paper, pencils, pens, those kinds of school supplies. We have asked the teachers to compile a list of their specific needs, things like if they need a binder, if they need a composition book. So those lists will be we were going to communicate that the first day of school so that we were sure we're communicating the right thing at the right time, but they will not need it for the first day of school. We will have everything that they need for the first week of school on campus when they come. The other things that the teachers are asking for would be needed the following week. So you'll have time to purchase those. And the reason that we don't want to put it out now is if we have any kind of shifts right now in staffing and they get a list that comes out now with something that's not going to be accurate for the fall. Which I think is actually how they do it in high school and college is first day you show up, the teacher says, you need a composition book for my class. And then you go get the composition book. Oops. No. Let's see. Oh. 10 till 8. I thank everyone for joining tonight. I see there's a lot of people on Zoom, so I appreciate your presence. I appreciate you wanting to learn more about what we're doing, hear what we've done this year. And I am really looking forward to the end of this school year and the beginning of the next school year. I hope that we can continue our track record of graduating students who go on to do excellent things, and to really help our students be who God is calling them to be. That's why we're here, is not just to have them be the smartest kid in the room, but to have them be the best kid in the room. All right. And if you'll just close with me, we'll say in Our Father, in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. St. Edward, pray for us. All right, thank you everyone for being here.